it's a big week for us. We've got an opportunity to win a Big Ten championship, our seventh Big Ten championship program history on Thursday, and we're pretty stoked about the opportunity to be able to do that. It's been a goal for these players and for this team for a while. That's one of the big goals. And so, although we haven't played a whole lot of matches recently, it's I think all of our eyes are forward and excited about the opportunity in front of us.
All right, we'll move to questions. If you'd like to ask a question, just drop me a note in the chat and I will get you into the rotation. And we'll start with Jeff Patrikas.
Yeah, Kelly, you mentioned obviously the lack of live matches for some time now. I know you tried to make the best of it, but is there any concern that you need to get some live stuff before the NC2As?
It would certainly be nice to have these matches this weekend. I mean, it's I think for almost anybody's sanity, it's it's a frustrating thing. It was a frustrating thing last week to be sitting at the airport for 2 hours just waiting to see if it was going to be canceled or not. And so, the players are just sitting on a bus until they decided to stop sitting on a bus and went out in the parking lot and did a bunch of TikTok videos. But you can only do that for so long, I think, and even that gets old. I hear, so it's. That they've been going. One of the fortunate things is I feel like we've got a lot of depth and our practices have been really good. But, we've been doing that since August. It's a really long time to just stay locked in and just playing against your teammates all the time. And so is it critical that we play this weekend or else, we're going to have a tough NCAA tournament afterwards? I don't know if I necessarily believe that, but it certainly helped to be playing some good competition, and Michigan certainly gives us that.
Go to Lance Fieser.
Kelly, what does it say about the mental fortitude of your team for the fact that they're playing for a Big Ten championship this week, despite the fact that you played one match in a month plus, and they've still been able to produce each time they've had an opportunity?
Well, it means we got off to a good start, and we haven't had the opportunity to go back to the pack, I guess. I think that's probably a little bit of it, but I'll tell you what I love is going in the gym and seeing how positive and the continued hunger from people, how they've showed up every day trying to be better. I'm sure that it's worn them down, but I don't visually see that in practices. And this team has probably been able to handle this as a collective group probably better than I can imagine any other group that I've had been able to do that. But they've done it. They've done a great job with that. But the lineup has changed quite a bit, and we've been able to roll with it. And but we all knew that going into the season that would be something that we'd have to do. That COVID would force that situation, and we've tried to embrace adversity, and we've tried to keep a little bit of gallows humor along the way with it. So that they're just. This group has impressed me an awful lot, and hopefully we get the chance for other people to kind of see that here in these how many weeks we have left.
Go to George Balekji.
Yeah, Kelly, for the status of your team, you mentioned the depth. Will everyone be available? Most of the players, is there kind of going to be a hit with this layoff if COVID has affected you guys at all?
I think we're expecting everybody to be available to compete this weekend. And, it took quite a few of our players, actually most of them, even the ones that didn't have COVID, because everybody was shut down for basically 2 weeks. It took a toll. I mean, we tested, you do your testing, throughout the season. And when we got back, everybody was between 1 and 3 inches off on their vertical. Well, that's pretty significant in that time. The average was an inch and a half for everybody. And so it clearly affected us from a strength standpoint, an explosiveness standpoint. Our numbers are just now starting to get to where they were, BC or before COVID. There's BC before COVID and AD after disruption, and so AD seemed to be about where it was BC.
Back to Jeff.
Yeah, Kelly, I apologize if you've been asked this before and if it might not be a smart question, but you've got a gap between the Michigan scheduled match on the 2nd and the NCAA tournament. Has there been any discussion of trying to get a rescheduled match or two in that window, or is it no, that's not going to happen?
It's not going to happen for a few things. Number one, you've already got the conference championship already decided that the NCAA selection show is Sunday. So the tournament have already been picked. And then, do you really want to open yourself up to possible exposures by playing somebody else? I think at that time, you're probably here. Let's try to keep this thing as tight as we can around us and try to get a runway for us to be able to hopefully do some special things in Omaha.
Back to Lance.
Kelly, I know a week ago we talked to you about the NCAA tournament and how you felt the field should be expanded. I know Nebraska's coach said something publicly as well. Have you heard from anyone? Has there been any follow-up? Have you seen any traction at all for this from the NCAA or, I don't know, the Big Ten or anyone that you've been in talks with?
Lance, I don't think there's going to be anything that's going to change on this. It's, the powers that be are all in Indianapolis and San Antonio and fixing weight rooms and things like that. So I doubt if there's a whole lot of interest in this last minute changing of us. Unfortunately, to me, it just makes sense. But you're hoping that there's lessons learned that that carry forward within our tournament. And that they're giving a first-class event to our athletes, and that's kind of a hope. But no, I'd say at this point it's probably a pipe dream to expect that to go from 48 to 64.